بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Brothers, what I have here is a Motorola flip phone with a 1 megapixel camera. And I remember when this camera first, this phone first came out, there was a lot of advertisements about this phone. This was the latest phone you could buy, and everyone wanted this phone. But now, you won't take a second look at it. It's just an average phone, and there's many more better phones on the market available. For example, the iPhone. And anyone who bought the iPhone last year, they'll be thinking, oh no, look, there's a better iPhone this year. Or there's a BlackBerry, and there's lots of phones in the market which do, all types of wonderful things. Not just you make calls, you can play music, you can surf the net, all types of things you can do. And the same problem with computers. When you buy a computer, you buy a top of the range Mac. The following year they bring another computer out that's twice as fast as that previous computer. If you have a car, the human being, if he has one car, one car is not enough for him. As soon as he has one car, he might want 2 cars. Or recently, last year, I bought a car, and now the whole family is mourning because that car, it's from a main dealer, but it doesn't have air conditioning. So now we want a car with air conditioning. If you have a TV, you want a bigger TV, and so on and so forth. Human beings, they always want more and more and more and more, and it's impossible to supply every single human being with everything he wants. And capitalist economic theory, they say this is the main problem. The main problem in life is that there's unlimited wants, unlimited amount of things that people want, and limited goods, limited things that you can give people. And the way we're going to solve this problem is through price. Whoever can afford the price, if you can afford the latest Mac, you can have the latest Mac. If you can afford the latest iPhone, then you're going to have the latest iPhone. And if you can't afford these things, then you're not going to have any of these things. If you've got the money, you can buy the goods and services. If you don't have the money, you have to go without. And from their perspective of poverty, from their definition of poverty, they say, for example, one definition, poverty, people are in poverty if they earn 30% less than the national average income. So there's always going to be people who are earning less than the national average income. There's always going to be, from their perspective, people in relative poverty. And from their perspective, they say we can never solve the issue of poverty. And one very famous person, Adam Smith, who is a very well-known economist, and lots of people, even they've established an institution in his name, Adam Smith Institute. He said, this is the way you solve the problem of unemployment. If there's too many people in the world and they don't have jobs, if there's too many people in the world and those too many people, excess people to jobs, if they don't have jobs, they're not going to have money. If they're not going to have money, they're going to starve. And they're going to die, and then the problem will be solved. Because the amount of jobs and the amount of people will be the same. And then we solve the problem of too many people or whatever. So many of you may be listening to this and thinking, this doesn't fit with the reality. This is not happening on the streets of Britain. People are not starving. If you don't have a job, you can claim job seekers allowance. But it's true. I'll come back to that at the end of my talk. That there is a mechanism in this country to feed people who don't have jobs. But this theory is propagated throughout the world, and our leaders throughout the world, they come to the West to study these theories. And the whole, world has adopted this as its basis. So this is not something which is hypothetical. This, in fact, is a reality. This philosophy that if you can't afford something, You have to go without. This, regardless of the consequences. This is why we see millions of people sometimes suffering from famine. Millions of people sometimes allowed to starve because they don't have the money to buy the food, so they should be allowed to starve. Millions of people in poverty in Bangladesh, in Africa, in India. They don't have money and they're allowed, the government allows this situation to continue. Because from their perspective, those who have the money can enjoy a good life. Those who don't have money have to suffer. So what does Islam say about this? Islam makes a distinction between needs and wants. It says your wants, the things that you want, is unlimited. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, if the son of Adam had one valley of gold, he would desire for two. Even if he had one valley of gold, he would desire for two. But his needs are not unlimited. Everyone has certain needs which can all be met. There's enough food in the world to feed everybody. There's enough land in the world to house everybody. There's enough rizq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guaranteed the rizq for every single of His creation. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, the son of Adam has no better right than to some food, clothing and shelter. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that certain necessities of life that you cannot do without, such as, for example, food, clothing and shelter, this is a right on every single human being, regardless of his income, regardless of whether he's got the money to pay for it or not. This is his intrinsic right. And Islam says, if he cannot afford to purchase these things, the state has to make these things available to him. And has to also change the conditions which brought him into that predicament in the first place, that he is having to take money from the state. Those conditions which put people in poverty shouldn't exist in the first place. And Islam has got lots of tools and mechanisms. Lots of the Sharia has got lots of laws to solve this problem of poverty and make sure that people are never in this situation of poverty. The first mechanism, I'd just like to quickly run through them because it's a huge topic and we can't discuss everything, but just to give an idea of how Islam would solve the issue of poverty. The first issue is there's three types of property in Islam. There's private property, there's state property, and there's public property. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that the people share in three things. Public property is these three things, he said. The people share in three things: the fire, the water, and the green pastures. So the scholars said from this, the fire means gas, electricity, oil, all of these public utilities, water, all of these things cannot be owned by any individual, cannot be owned by any private company. These things belong to the people.